must have it.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Senate 109. I'm Dennis Adegunloye. Beginning with deliberations on the floor of the Senate, a bill to amend the Pensions Reform Act of 2004 has passed second reading. Leading the debates on the bill, which received wide support, Senator representing Sokoto North, Aliu Wamako, expressed belief that when finally passed, it will provide succor to retirees from the delays and other difficulties encountered in accessing their savings after retirement.
The Pensions Reform Act 2014 Amendment Bill was among 6 bills that passed second reading at plenary. Senator Ali Wamako, in his lead debate, expressed optimism that when the bill finally becomes act, retirees will be the real beneficiaries of their pension savings.
It seeks to provide for succor to retirees in the delay and other difficulties they stumble upon in withdrawing their savings from a retiring savings account. Equally, Mr. President and my dear colleagues, it provides for a definite and reasonable percentage a pensioner can withdraw from such an account.
The Act provides that investments are going to be carried out by these fund administrators, and at the end of the day, it will add up to what your benefit is going to be in the long run. Where are they doing the investment? What is the accrued interest or benefit to those investments? Most of these beneficiaries or pensioners don't have a clue.
Act amend the Pension Reform Act Cap P4, Laws for the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to provide for a definite percentage a retiree can withdraw from his retirement savings account and for other matters related there to 2022 second reading taken, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Establishment and Public Service Matters for further legislative action to report back within 4 weeks.
Other bills that scaled second reading include a bill to establish the Federal University of Transportation, Daura, a bill for an act to amend the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps Act, as well as a bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Medical Sciences, Egbe, Kogi State.
Establishment of this university will go a long way to develop human capital in Nigeria, properly safeguarding and sustaining the huge investment of federal government in the transport sector.
Establishment of this university, Mr. President, as a specialized center of excellence in the field of medicine will bring to fruition this desirable objective and the vision of our founding fathers.
Senate received 4 presidential nominees for confirmation as commissioners for the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. It also confirmed the appointment of 2 nominees as members of the Federal Judicial Service Commission.
The Senate and House of Representatives have commenced harmonization of more than 50 constitution amendment bills in line with aspirations of citizens for good governance.
The meeting of the special committees of the 2 chambers saddled with amending some sections of the 1999 Constitution is to further analyze submissions, compare and review reports and do clause-by-clause consideration. Some thematic areas of the exercise include local government and judicial reforms and enabling more inclusion for women to enhance good governance.
As we critically consider the bills in the working document before us, in which the Secretariat has provided both the Senate and the House versions, let our debate, opinions and decisions on the amendment and expressive clauses be guided by what is best for our people and what is in the national interest.
I'm seeking for maximum cooperation from all of us so that we can deliver to allow the bill go to State Assembly before the end of this February.
The two committees, after harmonization, will present reports for adoption in both the Senate and House of Representatives and transmit same to state assemblies for concurrence.
Now, as election fever continues to grip the nation, how has the National Assembly fared in keeping this fever at bay and in maintaining focus on the core mandate of lawmaking? Well, the senior special assistant to the president on Niger Delta affairs and seasoned legislator, Senator Ita Enang, gives his take on the 9th Senate in this regard and the focus of the legislature on the Constitution amendments process.
Let me commend the National Assembly for the way they have gone on, because although there is a heightened tempo in political activities, the National Assembly has not allowed the heightened tempo to affect their legislative work. They still sit 3 days in a week in plenary, and then Mondays for committee meetings, Fridays for committee meetings, and those who have constituency assignments go to do it, and committees that have that have oversight in their committees also go for their oversight. They don't take time of the plenary to go for oversight. So members of the public should give them all the cooperation, and there is nothing diverting their attention. Yes, they were on normal break. Normally there is the Christmas break, there is anytime there is the Christian or the Muslim festival, there is the normal break. And there is, anytime any of the major political parties that is represented in the legislature is having Congress or convention, they normally give them time, which is applicable to every political party that is represented in the legislature. So if any of these arises, as it arose for the PDP, time was given for the members to prepare for the convention. As it's going to arise for the APC, I think some time may also be given for preparation for the convention and for for mobilization of party members for the convention and for the legislators to participate in their constituencies and their political leadership and the party. So nothing from the heightened political activities is, in my opinion, affecting the legislature, because from time past, from 1999, 2003, 2007, 2011, 2015 and 2019, there has always been this timetable, which is like a calendar, which in advance proposes the number of days the legislature will sit and makes contingency provision for extra number of days if any of public holiday comes in, or party convention comes in, or any matter in which the legislature may be called upon to do. So there is nothing to be worried about.
All right. Last year there were the public hearings, no public hearings on constitution amendments, and this year the Senate and the House are going to be focusing on taking the process forward on the constitutional amendments. What are your expectations from the legislature as they enter their final lap?
Let me comment because in the public hearing that has been done, the National Assembly has been very thorough, the House of Representatives and the Senate, and they opened a lot of it for the public to contribute and bring ideas. And after that, they went into the closed session in which they took the vote on each of the amendments, one after the other. And I know from my intelligence and working with some of them, I think my law firm has been involved in some level of monitoring for and my office has also been involved in the relations. So I'm confident in what they have done and what they are doing. The public should also expect a very, very acceptable recommendations from the committee, and the way they voted is coming up. And when they pass it on the floor, any of them that passes, they will forward it to the Houses of Assembly and know the number that has come out to accept it. But I want to urge the Secretariat and His Excellency the Deputy President of the Senate and His Excellency the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, who are the chairman of the committees in respect of the House and the Senate, to ensure first that before anything goes out, it is harmonized. And above all, let them keep track of the proceedings in each of the state houses of assembly. Let them send their team or the consultants to each of the state houses of assembly when they are considering it, so that they can have the record of that house of assembly and know how many people voted for or against each of the clauses. And I repeat what I mean. There may be 5 things that are sent to the House, to all the houses of assembly, and the House of Assembly is not to sit and just bring the 5 to be considered to vote for or against all. They are to take each of the amendments or sections one after the other, so that you know which of the sections the Gombe House of Assembly or the Bayelsa House of Assembly or the Rivers State or Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly has voted for, and those that they have not voted against. You will not say the House of Assembly has voted for all, because you'll have to have the vote and proceedings of the House and see which one have they voted for, and then you tick that one. There may be some Houses of Assembly that may vote for item 1 or 2 and vote against item 3, 4, and 5, or 3, 4, and so on, so that you now know in specificity which particular one has passed the test. In previous amendments which were involved, and even the last one, there were these disputes and disputations as to whether each of them was passed. So they should go to that extreme detail, because the Constitution says that to amend me, there must be 2/3 of each House of Assembly. Not to amend all, to amend each of the sections in me, the Constitution. Each of the sections. So they should be that specific, so that they come back to have this thing. And then the civil society organization should also monitor and make sure that there is compliance with that, and so that when it comes, it will be a matter that will not have any suspicion or some disputations.
Here now are some further highlights of the Senate Committee on Petroleum Upstream's recent oversight to the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited.
In your presentation, you talked about prioritizing the various areas that have been, you have collected the seismic data for in terms of their readiness, or I think that was what you were saying. But you stopped short of telling us what the prioritized areas were. So my question is, can you give us more detail on that presentation in terms of the areas that are ready for to go to the next steps in terms of frontier exploration? Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, the group MD and members of this team. First, I want to appreciate your efforts at the security situation, in terms of addressing the security situation in the areas that you are operating. Okay? You've gone into a relationship with the key security agencies in Nigeria, but again, there is no assurance that this vandalization will not continue. It has been a problem for a very long time, and there is no certainty that these problems will come to an end in the near future. What is the nature of the insurance policy on these assets? Okay? Because my worry is that whatever profit you make may end up being used for either maintenance or restoration of assets that are being continuously vandalized. So what is the nature of the insurance cover on these assets?
I mean, a bill, National Commission that will even
curb the challenges of vandalizations of pipelines. That bill has passed through the second stage, and I believe the National Assembly under Lawan is up to the task to deliver. Because if many of our graduates are taking off the streets and they are involved physically in this, act of, securing most of these assets, I think that particular point will be brought down to the barest minimum. Today, whatever policy put in place, so these graduates are roaming about the streets. And I believe the National Commission bill before the National Assembly to combat illegal importation of arms and reduce, pipeline vandalization to the barest minimum will be a major key instrument to fight and secure our pipelines in all the creek. So we believe that Mr. President, being the Minister of Petroleum Resources, this will be a very principal, act to ensure that when that particular bill passed through the third reading in both chambers of the National Assembly, so that it's giving a presidential assent, it will go a long way to stop this vandalization. And that is what some of the bills we are putting in place in National Assembly to ensure that many graduates are taking off the street to support the agenda of Mr. President. That's just an advice. Thank you.
Anyone who can take, there are rocks all over the world, not just in our country, there are rocks everywhere in the world. And there are many ways they go around this, but the safest thing to do is to scale up your security architecture, deeper community engagement, and of course intervention of elites like all of us. Let me just own it up that we need to speak out. You can see that there's hardly major stakeholders that speak about it, and I think we need to do more of this so that we disown it. And as so let me just talk it frontally also. Those who steal oil and take it to the international market are not the ordinary people we see in the village. They are not. They're all in the elites group, and it's all of us. It's up to us to contend this, speak against it, work against it. Otherwise, we are creating a new set of rogues who will have enormous resources in their hands, and they will take down all of us, including the country. Then, how do you reward community that are, since Senator Mbani has asked a question around, how do you reward community members who are helping in containing the acts of vandals? Two ways of reward. First is to, first of all, for the National Assembly and all of us push so that the host community fund comes up, because it really means that once you are fighting against vandal action in your community, it means those access are also in your community. And then once you put up the fund, and then you will have a vested interest to benefit from it, and then you will act accordingly. More than that, once there's a vandal action, there's a containment that you have to do. We never go outside the community to look for people to help us with the containment, also by testing some of the work that must be done, is usually done by community-based contractors. And of course, we're also working around part of the process. I thought this is not the right place to speak about it, but we're working to have community-based structure of the security intervention that we are doing. It has always been community contractor, but we're doing something different, a new approach that will now integrate the members of the community to be specifically involved in the process. We'll test this and see how that goes, why it takes us to. Lastly, ask around what the detail of the prioritized next steps for FES operation. I think the medium has spoken to it, but to be very specific, it's resource-driven and prospect-driven. As we see now, we are doing seismic around Kiana area in Nasarawa State, because there are some other primary data that has shown us that there's huge potential for us to mature that and drill a well to test that. Also, in the Chad Basin, we have matured the prospect to drilling because of the security issue that we have in the place. But hopefully, what we are doing here will enable us re-enter. All others are data maturation, in the sense that there are very many steps for doing exploration work up to drilling. Some of them are at the basic level, some of them are being mature. So there are a number of works we are doing across the country. Some of them studies, some of them interpretation of data. Until you drill, that you will not have tested it. So we see the line of sight around testing drilling for this year may just be limited to 1 or 2 locations in this fiscal year. And also, Distinguished Senator Jibril asks if there is insurance around these assets that are abandoned. The insurance companies call this war risk. They put a premium that you are better off not taking it. Otherwise, they will treat it as act of God, and nobody has control over this, and no insurance company will cover such assets, unfortunately. Then, lastly, Senator Patrick's view around the bill on the Commission on Small Arms, the control of arms and vandals activities. I think it will clearly dovetail into the host committee provision in the Petroleum Industry Act, and those provisions, if they are clearly articulated and related to the petroleum industry, they may be useful, but I hope they also don't become a duplication of the host committee that we have in place. Thank you very much, Mr. Senator.
Thank you, James. So it's very colleagues, it is very clear that we must hold down the regulator, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, to come up with the regulations as regards the establishment of the host community trust fund. It's quite critical and very fundamental at this stage. While we were also at the Nigerian Upstream Regulatory Commission, we made to understand that the loss to the country on due to crude oil theft and it's the equivalent of about 3 cargoes a month. 6 cargoes a month. This is quite huge. That's the reason why, as a committee, we must hold the regulator accountable on this, because based on the law, without their regulations, there is nothing anybody can do about it in terms of establishing this host community. And the law is also clear that you must do this within 6 months of the law coming into force. The law had come into force. I think we're on the fifth month, if I'm not mistaken. So I think on that note. So just to recap, GMD, it's quite interesting that you just told us that your partners, you are beginning to have positive signals as regards investment into the upstream, which is also key. So we expect to see quite some drastic inflows in the next couple of months, which was quite one of the objectives of the PIA. Exxon, very key. And you also talked about most of your partners divesting from onshore and shallow water, and then go into deep offshore. And of course, you said you will get very competent investors to also look at that due to community issues and environmental issues as well. You also threw light on upstream being the core of your business, and then an improvement in you begin to see some improvements in the collaboration in the security architecture collaborations in the upstream. That you said that the losses have been said. I think we had stated that GMD, please get your team to get us to Frontier. By next week, they should work with our clerk and let us know on time, so that we can consider your budget and sign up for you. And also, we need to look at what is happening in MPDC as well, and then IDSL in Benin. So I think your team should work with our secretariat to make this possible, so that we can have an overview, because I think this is the first time that we are beginning to come out, because we're constrained and burdened down by the processing of the PIA in the last almost 2 years, and we thank God we're able to pull that through. So on behalf of my colleagues, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for this reception you've accorded us. and we want to congratulate you again on your appointment. And we know that I pray and we pray that you leave this NNPC far better than you met it. And congratulations, and receive the highest commendations for turning NNPC into a profit-making business. And we believe that you intend to turn out more profit so that you can pay dividends to your shareholders, which is the Nigerian people. And also, we are currently also reviewing the amendment as requested by Mr. President. And we also believe that this process, we are not going to restrict ourselves to the President's request on the amendment. Whatever needs to come into the law in terms of enhancing it to make us more competitive, to attract the desired investable funds into the Nigerian oil and gas industry, we will not hesitate to do so. So we thank you for receiving us, and we wish you one of the most successful tenure as an NNPC Healthman.
And that concludes this edition of the program. Thanks for watching. I am Dennis Adegunloye. See you next week.